first thing I'd like you to do is check your final answers for last night's homework, which was page 13 and 14 in this packet. I have all the answers here for you, but most of the work I didn't show, so that way if you have questions on the work or you cannot rework your answer to get the correct answer, you can come up and ask me. So you can pause this video, check your answers, and ask any questions. And I'll also turn to page 14. So same thing, it didn't show all of the work, but you can pause your video, check the answers, and then ask me if you have any questions. Also, if you had any wrong, retry them, see if you can come up with the correct answer on your own first. Try to find your mistake, and if not, just ask me. So when you're done checking this, we're going to go to page 15 in the packet, which is a little bit of review from yesterday. So something important to remember, the main idea here, we're going to be moving on to evaluating functions on graphs. So the main idea to remember here is that f of x is equal to y. So that means whatever number is the input is the x coordinate, whatever number is the output is the y coordinate on the graph. So for example, if b of x is 3x squared, and we need to find b of -5, we would plug in -5 for x. 3 times -5 squared. Remember, when you're simplifying, we're not solving here, we're just simplifying. You always do exponents before multiplication because of GEMDAS. So b of -5 equals 3 times 25. So b of -5 equals 75. So this is your x value or your input. Input is always inside parentheses. This is your y value. So basically what this means is that on the graph of b of x, -5, 75 is a coordinate point. And you also might want to add up here too, when you have f of x equals y, you can also add to yourself just a little note that f of the input is equal to the output. And input always goes inside parentheses, input inside. So we'll do another one. If m of 3 equals -4, we don't have any work to do here. Basically just means that the point 3, -4 is on the graph, is a point on the graph. So I'd like you to pause the video here, try problems 3 and 4, and then check your answers. So those are the answers to problems 3 and 4. And we'll move on to page 16 together. So now it's kind of going backwards. So they give us the xy point, and they say what would the function statement be. So if -6, 3 is on the graph, then this means that x and y, x goes inside for input, g of -6 equals 3 for the output. For part B, again, x goes inside, y goes outside, g of 23 equals -1. So try parts C and D. Pause the video, try them, and then check your answers. Now, if you had any questions on page 15 or 16, if anything is not clear to you, please come up and ask me, and I'm more than happy to go over it with you. There's also a little extra credit option down here that you can do at home, sketching a graph. If you need graph paper, let me know, I'll give you some. But I'm not going to talk too much about this because it's extra credit, opportunity not required. We are going to go back to page 8 of the packet. So page 8. So now we're actually looking at a graph to evaluate statements. So we don't have an equation here for c of x, but we do have a graph of c of x. So first thing to find is c of negative 1. So you can always like organize here. This is x, this is y. So it's saying when x is negative 1, what is y? So look on your x-axis. When x is negative 1, y is 3. So c of negative 1 is 3 because when x is negative 1, y is 3. And you can even write the point negative 1, 3. For part B, c of 4. So c of 4, so we're looking when x is 4, what is y? So this point here is 4 comma 0 because it's not going up or down at all. So c of 4 equals 0 because when x is 4, y is 0. C of 0, so we can even start our reason because when x is 0, y is, let's go on our graph, at x is 0, y is 1. And you can even put the point here, 0, 1. And c of negative 2. Forgot to put my y there. So because when x is negative 2, y is, so we're looking on our x-axis. When x is negative 2, travel up to the graph. It's this point here, and then y is positive 2. So you don't need to know the equation for these, but you do need to be able to see the graph, so that way you can see the xy points. So if any of this didn't make sense, please come ask and I will go over it with you. And if you think you understand, why don't you try number 5, pause the video, try the problem, and then check your answers with the next section of the video. So I actually put the points on here for A, B, C, and D. And here are the answers along with the reasons. So if you didn't have these right, see if you can find your mistake. And if you didn't have them right and you don't understand your mistake, just come ask and we'll go over them. And if you had them right, we'll just move on. Okay, so now we're looking ahead a little bit to real world situations. So the function m of x represents the amount of money, m, that Amanda owes towards her American Express bill on day X in July. So they ask us to look at the graph. What is m of 5 and what does it represent? So we're looking at 5 on the x-axis. We're seeing where it goes here. So it's like 5, 1. But that doesn't mean she owes $1 because if you read the units here, it says amount owed to American Express in hundreds of dollars. So it's actually 100. So m of 5 is 100. Meaning she owed $100 on, remember X is the day in July, so the 5th day of July. I'm running out of space. July 5th. What is m of 23 and what does it represent? So same concept, you're going to X is 23. You're figuring out the output, the Y. It's somewhere around here. You could say around 4, but remember it's hundreds of dollars, so m of 23 is $400. And it's the amount that she owed, not on July 5th, but on July 23rd. Then, this should actually say is, sorry, little typo, is m of x less than 0 at all, and what could this mean? So, is m of x less than 0 at all? So here it's above 0, here it's above 0, right? Those are all positive numbers. But between these 2 days, it looks like it goes into the negatives. So that looks like it's 6, 7, 8. So between the 8th day and if that is 18, this would be 19. So between July 8th and July 19th, she owes negative money. So between July 8th and 19th. So what could this mean in a real world context? Well, it could mean that she returned something that was worth more than she owed. So say she returned something like from last month that she bought that was $600, but she only owed $100, then she could be in the negatives of what she owes now. She got some money back. It could also mean that she paid her bill early. So some people do that. They'll call in advance and just pay the bill early so that way they know that they're not spending that money. So if you can come up with others and you want to share with me, that would be wonderful as well. So again, if anything in this problem does not make sense, please just come ask me. We can go over it together. Your homework tonight will be from this packet, page 17 and 18. The answers are on the Google post from yesterday. So if you look at yesterday's post, there's a section that says homework answers. We didn't do all the problems yet, but just 17 and 18 are all that you have to check. Remember, we're going to have a very, very, very mini quiz tomorrow. Just basically, is it a function, yes or no? Evaluating a function from an equation and evaluating from a graph like we did today. But it should take no more than 10 minutes. So if you want to jump to page 17 and 18, I can just give you some quick reminders. So page 17, basically this whole first section, numbers 1 through 6, you're just inputting the x value. So you're replacing every x with -5, for example there. Remember that you do exponents before multiplication. Remember that absolute value becomes positive. Remember that dividing by 0 would be undefined. Here again, you're plugging it. We've done this earlier in the year, but you're pretty much just plugging in these numbers for x and then filling in the numbers for y and then graphing them. So for example, the first one, f of -4, would be half of -4 plus 3. Half of -4 is -2 plus 3 is 1, and then you're plotting this point, -4, 1. So we've done this like in September, 2, 3, 4, 1. So you're just doing that for all 4 points. This one is a challenge one, so you can come up with your own equation. If you come up with one, maybe send me a picture of it. I would love to see. And on page 18, this is basically what we just did. So for example, f of -6, you're looking when x is -6. Remember, this is your x-axis. When x is -6, it's right on the axis, so y is 0. It's not above or below at all. So see if you can fill those in. This one, so someone said that this input-output table matches the graph. What do you think? So this would mean that 0, -6 is a point. So if you go to x equals 0, -6 should be a point. But I don't know, you tell me. Check all these points, see if it makes sense, or can you fix it? This one's pretty straightforward. If f of 3 is -4, what's the xy point? That's kind of like page 15 and 16 that we just did. This one, for what integer value does f of x equal 0? So this one you're basically looking at when y is 0. So when y is 0, when the output is 0, x is, and see if you can find 1 or 2 from the graph. They tell us a second function g of x is given by this equation. They ask you to find which is greater, f of -5 or g of -5. So to find f of -5, you're going to look at the graph. When x is -5, what is y? And to find g of -5, you're using the equation. So plug in into this equation for x and see which one is greater. And then a student claims f of x can never equal 0. So remember f of x is y. So, can never equal 10. So they're saying y on this graph will never equal 10. What do you think? Yes or no? Explain your answer. So again, any questions, just come up and ask. And if you have more time left in class, you can start your homework. Have a great day.